Well, good afternoon and welcome to San Marcos Baptist Academy. We're pleased to have visitors from around the state of Texas here with us, new friends, old friends here, some of you really old friends, joining our students and our faculty and our staff for today's first lecture in the Donell and Grant Teaff Distinguished Lecture Series. And we have with us today three Baylor University all-time greats, and they'll join Coach Taft in this afternoon's program. Seated on the stage first would be Donell Taft, Coach Taft's wife and a longtime member of the Baylor Board of Trustees. Donell Taft is considered by generations of Baylor football players to be the first lady of Baylor football. Donell Taft will bring greetings in just a few moments. And then Mike Singletary, an All-American linebacker at Baylor, a three-time National Football League Player of the Year and a member of the NFL Hall of Fame. Mike Singletary will join us from the Minnesota Vikings practice facilities, where he and fellow Viking coaches are preparing for the upcoming NFL draft. And then to introduce Coach Taft, on the stage, seated with us, Walter Abercrombie. No one who ever put on the green and gold and played at Baylor had more career rushing yardage, and that's a Baylor program that's over 100 years old. No one had more career rushing yardage than Walter Abercrombie. Here with us today, a first-round draft pick by the Pittsburgh Steelers following his college career, currently the executive director of Baylor's Letterman's Association. And then welcome to all of our guests. All of you out here, we're glad that you're here. Joining our students, we're pleased that you're here. I'd ask now that you please rise for the posting of colors by the San Marcos Academy JROTC Color Guard.
Color guard, forward, mark. Color guard, halt. Halt. Color. Present. Arm. Order. Arm. Color guard. Fake. Forward. Mark. Go ahead and take your seats, please.
Greetings to each of you this afternoon. We are absolutely delighted to be here with you, and we hope to get to know many of you and to visit with you today. And hopefully, Coach Taft and I can leave some words of encouragement with you that will benefit your life as you live it now and in the future. This is our second visit to your campus, and I just have to tell you that we have been so impressed with the quality of you as students and the excellence of your educational process and the wonderful success stories that we hear about your graduates who have gone on and to seek their place in the world. And so we know that you're doing a lot of things right here, and we appreciate it so much. And it's for that reason, too, that it's important for you to know that it is such a privilege for us to be involved in this distinguished lecture series at San Marcos Academy, the very first one. And you can also imagine that it is very important to us, and it makes us feel very honored to know that our name has been placed with such a distinguished series. Now, we want this series to be informative and interesting and sometimes humorous. We want it to be a happening on your campus. And certainly when you graduate and hear that the series is happening year after year, we hope that you'll be knocking the door down to come back for this particular event. Now, if you should ask Coach Taft, what is your ultimate goal in life? I think he would probably say very simply to you, to make a difference. I've heard him say that many times. And I can tell you that in truth, he has made a difference and he continues to do so. And after 37 seasons as an active college football coach, and our life has gone in seasons rather than years, you see, he has worked with young men. He's taught them. He has molded them. He has loved them. He's disciplined them. He's cared about them. But he also has prepared them for life beyond the football field and their educational process. After coaching at the collegiate level, he became the executive director of the American Football Coaches Association, and now he coaches the coaches in the nation, about 86,000 of them. That's a lot of coaches. But he helps with their education, but he also protects the game of football, and he protects those who play the game. Now, by definition, he is a game changer, and in so many ways, he continues to make a difference. And he's making that difference just like your teachers, your faculty, your instructors, your administrators are doing today with you as you work through your education here, whether you go on to higher education or whatever your endeavor might be. They are preparing you to be prepared for that. Now, one of the ways that Coach Taft is making a difference is through a new book that he's written, and it's entitled A Coach's Influence Beyond the Game. And you're probably thinking, well, what in the world does that have to do with me, and what does it have to do with this day today? Well, let me tell you that the book, and you will know this after you've heard him speak today, addresses the social issues of our day. Now, they are many, and they're in every segment of our society. And you're going to be confronted with these head on, and probably are today, but certainly as you move through your life and move on out into the world. And you're going to hear something of that, but you're also going to hear, I rather imagine, something of an urge to prepare you so that you might reach your full potential and unlock the doors to personal excellence. It's our hope that today will be a helpful tool, and this series in the years to come for students, to prepare you and those as you're beginning to think about your chosen path in life, because many of you are beginning to think of your chosen path in life. What am I going to do? And we hope that your life's work will be a calling and not simply a vocation in the community in which you live. And it's our hope also that we can help to prepare you better for the world in which you live and orient your life to be able to serve others. And if we can have a small part in that endeavor, then that ultimate goal to make a difference will have been met. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mike Singletary, and it gives me a lot of joy to be able to talk about a man that means so much to me, particularly about a man that happens to be a tremendous father, a tremendous husband, and have a tremendous wife, Donell. And it's an outstanding family man that just happens to be a coach. I know that he's being awarded tonight the endowment series of lectures of leadership and education, and it's very fitting for a man such as Coach Taft. But I just want to give you a little bit about the background of Coach Taft and myself. First of all, every year these coaches, head coaches around the country, and their staffs try to recruit all these kids and to bring them in and help their program be great programs. And I had the recruiting process for me. It started with a gentleman by the name of Ron Harms, and so I was being recruited. First school, Baylor, and Ron Harms talked to me about Baylor and really talked to me about what Baylor was all about. The Christian school, Baptist school, and the ethics, the integrity, and all of those things that Baylor stands for. And then he talked about Coach Taft. He told me what a wonderful man he was and how I was really going to enjoy meeting him. Well, you hear that about a lot of people. You hear that a lot about coaches. Well, Coach Taft finally came to my home, close to signing day, and talked to my mother about education, about integrity, about character, and how her son, Mike Singletary, would be a better person for having come to Baylor and getting a degree there. Those are the things that he talked about, and it's not very often that you talk about something and really follow through with it. But education and character and integrity, all of those things were tremendously important to Coach Taft, and it showed. Not just when I first got there, but every day. I saw him in great situations. I saw him in tough situations. I saw him in heated situations. And I can honestly say that he was very, very consistent through each and every one of those phases. That's unusual. First time I heard Coach Taft, when I got there as a freshman, talk to me about values and about setting goals and about having a plan for life and education. Talk to me about how many books I was going to read a semester, those types of things. And he always talked about the people that I surrounded myself with, the books that I read, the decisions that I made. Those are the things that would really basically help me decide what kind of life I was going to have and how that was really, really true. But just to have the opportunity for the 4 years that I was at Baylor and he was the head coach, it just blessed me so much as a man when I had the opportunity to go to his home and watch Donell as a mother cook a meal and how she served the family and how she talked and how they interacted as husband and wife, as mother and father. It was an amazing thing for me to see because I did not experience that growing up. And so as I look back at that time and I look back at Coach Taft, it's one of those things that, some things really last a lifetime because they have such an effect on your life. But Coach Taft has been one stable person in my life, throughout my life. Getting to know him has changed my life in such a way. Some of the things that I do, some of the things I say, being a speaker, being able to express myself, those are all the things that Coach Taft taught me as a freshman. I don't know why he did it, but he took me with him on certain speaking engagements, and he would ask me, "Hey, you want to go?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I'd like to go." And then finally, he had me go on my own one time. He called me and said, "Mike, I can't make it. I need you to go speak." And I went, "You got to be kidding me," to myself. But I went, and he knew that somehow, some way, that speaking would become a part of my life. And he always told me that I had something that I needed to be able to talk about. I needed to be able to get the word out. Some of the values and things that I had really learned from him. So as I sit back and really hate that I'm not able to make it, and I know Donell and Coach Taft are sitting there, and to me, it's just very nice to know that sometimes you read in books, sometimes you hear fairy tales, sometimes you hear people talk about other people, sometimes you see a movie, and when it's over, at some point in time you hear something different. Well, this is the character that I really know, and it does me great honor, and Coach Taft knows this. He knows that I love him with everything in me, and I really, really appreciate Donell for the wife that she is and the example that she is to many women around the country. And I'm thankful for them as a mother and father that just happened to be a coach and a coach's wife. I thank you. And this award that you're receiving tonight, it is so deserving, and many more. God bless you. I hate I'm not there to give you a hug. And take care, enjoy, and I'll be talking to you soon. God bless you. Take care.
It's really not a whole lot left to be said. I think my former teammate, Mike Singletary, said it all. I want to let you know how privileged I am to be here and share this in this occasion with you. I have to admit, I didn't know a whole lot about South San Marcos Baptist Academy when I came, but I can tell just by being on this campus and visiting with a few of you that I've had a chance to visit with you that this is really a quality place. And I think it's appropriate that Coach Taft and his wife Donell is here to share in the lecture series, because some of the same things that Coach Taft has been all about, that Mike talked about in his introduction, I can tell that those things are being taught here at San Marcos Baptist Academy. My story is not much different than Mike's. I could sit here and talk about all the accomplishments that Coach Taft has made throughout his entire career and life. Quite frankly, that's on your program. You can read about that. But what I'd like to do is share just a couple of stories with you about how Coach Taft has been an influence in my life. First of all, it was 1977 in Killeen, Texas. I didn't grow up in Killeen. My father pastored a church in Killeen, and he invited Coach Taft, and I was being recruited by a bunch of schools in the Southwest Conference, and I really didn't know for sure which school I was going to choose to go to play football and get an education. But Coach Taft was recruiting me, and I was considering Baylor, but I just wasn't sure. I thought maybe I wanted to step out of town, go somewhere else, the bright lights. And my father invited Coach to come down and speak during an 11 o'clock service on Sunday morning in our church. And Coach Taft was that was a big deal in our little community. And Coach Taft came, and all the folks, it was packed that day. I never will forget it. And I'm sitting in the audience, and I felt so special that the Baylor head football coach would come down to our little church and speak. And man, speak he did. He really tore it up. Now, some of you who've been to black churches before, you know how we can get. Well, Coach Taft talked about things that you typically don't hear a football coach talk about. He talked about the same things that Mike mentioned, integrity. He talked about how important it was for young people to go to college to get an education. He talked about character. He told the story about David and Goliath, and I'm sitting in the audience going, man, I'm David. And at the end of at the end, he had all those women in the church. I know they were amen and shouting, and my mother was right along with them. And after he finished, we came down, we visited a little bit, and we all stood outside and watched Coach Taft drive off and back to Waco. And those old women in that church, along with my mother, pulled me over to the side to have a little talk with me. And I say a little talk with me, that means that was just a one-way conversation. It wasn't a lot of talking I could do, but a lot of talking they did. And after that conversation, in no uncertain terms, they said to me, basically, you will be going to Baylor University. And I did choose to go to Baylor University. I'm so glad that I did go to Baylor. And I'm so glad and so blessed that I had an opportunity to play for this coach. He has been an amazing influence in my life. He has been a coach. He's been a friend, like a father. And he's been a mentor to me my entire career. And rather than repeat all of the things that Mike said, I want you to know that all of those things, I'm here as a witness, that all of those things that Mike said, I think every single student athlete that played for Coach Taft, and even others who knew him from a distance, know that what Mike said was absolutely true. And I am a living witness of the influence that Grant Teaff has had on hundreds of thousands of young people throughout our country. And it gives me great pleasure today to be here and share in this moment with him. You know, he's gotten a lot of things in his life, but I think probably his most prized possession or accomplishment was marrying Donell. Donell, for many of us football players that are on the team, you know, we would sit around and sometimes talk about our lives and our future, what we wanted in our lives, and the kind of woman we wanted to be involved in our lives as wives. And most of us agreed that whenever we got married, we wanted to marry somebody like Donell Taft. She was a great example, not only for women who were wives of coaches and others, but also for us young men who were trying to figure out what type of woman we wanted involved in our futures. So I'm fortunate in many ways to have worked with him, have played for him, and now have the great fortune of depending on his counsel on many occasions, and the other great fortune of introducing him now to you so that you'll be blessed in some way like all of us players were blessed. Coach Grant Teaff.
Thank you very much, Walter. I can't tell you how exciting it is to be here today. And particularly, I think it's rewarding to be able to come back to a place that I just really met physically just a year ago. And that is this amazing, amazing school, the campus, the character and the integrity of those that teach on this campus, the purpose by which they are driven. Students are truly blessed to be a part of this great place, and Donell and I are very honored to be a small part of it. The lecture series is something that can be extremely important. Our desire is that through this lecture series, to your already great education day after day, that you students, and the alumni, and those that support your program could come and have their purposes and their goals enhanced by those out there that have achieved already. And in the years to come, there'll be many great individuals that will come and bring you a message. And I think it's important to recognize that all who would come and be here do it out of love and care and concern, that they could help you in some small way become what God intended you to become. I can't thank Walter enough for being here. He's a very busy man, working hard on their new stadium up at Baylor, getting the alumni involved, the Letterman's Association, and I'm grateful, Walter, that you're here. It was so good to hear from Mike Singletary. You know, Donell and I have 3 beautiful daughters, and I have, through the years, been broached with this question hundreds of times. And it says, "Oh, Coach Taft, don't you wish you had a son?" And I respond, and many times they don't understand it. I said, "Well, thank you, I have many sons." And you saw 2 today. Thank you. You know, when I was about 8 or 9 years old, I don't know about many of you, but I was drugged to church. You know, they talk about drugs. Well, I was drugged to church. And my mother, who is 98 years old, taught 6-year-old Sunday school. I was one of those 6-year-olds she taught, and that's where the David and Goliath principles that I developed came from, that Walter mentioned, is that she told that story when I was 6 years old, and it fascinated me because I, like Walter, thought I was Goliath. I really did. But I realized very shortly after I was David in a big way. So one of the things that I learned from my mother was persistence. One of the things that I learned from my father was insistence. And part of that was that I would be in church. If the doors opened, we were in church. And one time we were sitting close to the front, my mother and I. My dad was not there. He was working. So when the pastor came out, he took off his watch and he laid it down on the podium like that. I was about 7, I remember, and I turned to Mother and I said, what does that mean? She said, absolutely nothing. He's Baptist. Don't you understand that? Nothing. The clock has nothing to do with it. But today I take that off as a symbol to you that I will recognize and respect our time, because I know the students are anxious to get back to class, and we want to make sure that you do that. But this is such a privilege, and to be able to talk today about, I think, things that are extremely important. I don't want to, in any wise, particularly those that are students here, be boring to you. You live in the society that many of us are learning about on a daily basis. We grew up in a different society, but we have to live in this society. And coaches and teachers have to be on top of things to make sure that they are bringing to those students that they care about something that can be usable and something that is fresh and something that is important to those that will be educated. So I hope today that this information that I bring to you will cause you to think and then cause you to act. If you're a young person in here, a student growing up, you need to recognize and understand that there's certain basic things besides education that we must master if we want to be the kind of people that we really want to be. You have to master these things. They're not hard, they're not complicated, but they are important to you becoming what God wants you to become. One of the things that we learn in life early on is that we have to recognize reality. What is reality? I have 2 grandchildren and that are small. I have 2 older. But when they were very young, their mother taught them a valuable lesson one day. And that lesson was very simple. She was cooking eggs, and the boys got into an argument, and who was going to get the first egg. They were 6 and 4 at the time. Jake, the older, Eli, the younger. The argument raged on, and finally my daughter Lane walked over to them and said, look, stop arguing. She said, both going to get the eggs basically at the same time, simultaneously. No need to argue on who's get the first, but first of all, let me remind you that you should be saying what Jesus would say. They both kind of looked at each other. She said, Jesus would say, let my brother have the first egg. Pretty good. She turned back, finished the eggs, turned back to deliver them, and the 6-year-old at that time, who I refer to as a Philadelphia lawyer, he's cerebral, and he was thinking all this through. The younger one's middle linebacker type. So his name is Eli. So Jake then blurts out to Eli, okay, Eli, today you be Jesus. Well, that was not the point that she was going to make. And today, of the many points that I try to make, I hope you'll recognize and understand the validity of those. A book that Donell and others has mentioned that I came on the scene, finished last December, is called A Coach's Influence Beyond the Game. And the genesis of that started when I was approached by members of the American Football Coaches Association who said to me, we need help. We are dealing with young people out of a society that are bringing to us issues and problems that we've never dealt with before. We need help from the American Football Coaches Association and from you. It was about 3.5 years ago when that occurred, and I started research and started to delve into the issues. Then we did surveys with all the coaches across the country. Tell us what the issues are. And in so doing, they determined that there were 6 major social issues that coaches and teachers had to deal with. And you'll understand why, because in many of the homes they weren't being dealt with. They were, of course, peer pressure. The pressure that children receive from their peers. And if you're not associated with the right kind of people, and Mike mentioned one thing, who you associate with, what you read, what you listen to, has an effect on who you're going to become. So if you're associated with the wrong people, and the poor peer influence will drag you completely down. This concept of disrespect. Disrespect is the opposite of respect. And once we ingrain disrespect in our life, we become callous and non-caring. And this is an issue that's come up. Most of these issues relate to this very next that surprised me in many ways, because I delved into the research on that I'll show you in just a moment. But it's the home. Fatherless homes. No positive male role model. There may be a male in the home, but no positive male role model. Poor parenting, dysfunctional parenting, parental pressure. Parental pressure can be one of the most devastating things for a child, because they may not have the talent and the ability to be that starter on the soccer team or the basketball team that the parents think they should be. It creates a huge amount of problems. Entitlement, which is classified as selfishness, lack of dedication. Oh, the world owes me something. That kind of attitude is that which is referred to as entitlement. Give me something without me having to work with it. And if there's one message that I'd like to leave with all of you, there are no free lunches. If you want something, you're going to have to prepare yourself. Then you're going to have to work to achieve it. And then you're going to have to continue to work to maintain it. Oh, you can get by in life with having your hand stuck out and saying everybody owes me something, but you can just get by, that's all. The accountability. These are issues that our coaches and teachers across the nation came up with. Young people not taking responsibility, not being accountable for their own actions, personal behavior, attitude, responsibility, self-discipline. All of those factors fall under that category of accountability. The last is lack of positive character issues. I discovered this as a child because it affected me and helped me develop a set of values that when I started school, my teachers and my coaches taught me how to win in life. The value system was there. The last quote in this book, I said, here's what I've discovered. I knew it beforehand, but doing this book, I've discovered this, that values are the fertile earth from which character blooms. And that is so true. One of the great blessings you students have here at this institution is that you are being taught values. If you accept them and begin to utilize them in your life, from that will grow character that will protect you and never change you. It's essential. Well, I can say this. What has changed in America? Discovering what the coaches are dealing with and the teachers are dealing with, beginning to do research, I found that just about everything has changed in America since 1960. I don't want to go into great detail on this, but you all know it, you've lived it. What's changed our society? Television, from black and white and a few sets around to one everywhere you turn and everywhere you look. There's a TV set with 300 channels on it. You can see anything at any time. That's devastating in many cases. Adult programming can be seen all of the time. If you have latchkey existence, if you're a child that are there at home by yourself, you're exposed to whatever you want to watch on television. Uncensored programming. The internet and the social media has changed everybody. A lot of it's good, but a lot of it's bad. Communication devices, we have every way to communicate. I left my cell phone in the car on purpose because I know what it can do. Even if it just buzzes in my pocket, it's a distraction. What could that be? Something's wrong. I need to answer the cell phone. It's in the car. Unrestricted words and songs. Tabloid magazines and newspapers with stories about everything you can imagine. Movies, games. We talk about violence in this country. Look at the games and the movies that children are exposed to. It doesn't seem like it's real if you're killing people on a screen. Callous, hardening of our arteries of care with what we see. Vanishing values and a diminishing work ethic. Now, I hate negativism. I just hate it. And anybody that's ever been around me, that's not my forte. My forte is a positive attitude and a positive approach to life. So after I studied and investigated all of these things, it was hard to keep a positive approach. And let me just show you some of the rationale. In a free society, there are three institutions by which a child has an opportunity to become what they want to become in life: the home, the church, and education. In America, we have free education in this country, in the public systems, and we're thankful and God blessed to have private institutions where things more and above can be taught to our young people. Thank God for that. That's one of the reasons I feel so strongly about this place, is that we have that opportunity. But the home is diminished. The church membership in America is going like this. So the last place is education. And I find that our teachers and our coaches are not trained the way they should be. It is very, very discerning and disturbing. The national crisis, I want you to know, turns out to be the fatherless home. Let me just briefly cover some of these things. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I just want to make sure that you know and understand it's a reality. It's out there. And those of us in education who are the last bastion, we are the last frontier. We have to take to heart. Who is it that has to take it to heart? The teacher and the coach. Those folks that work on a daily basis with their children. Well, let me just say this, that those that grow up with a father have stronger cognitive and motor skills, enjoy elevated levels of physical and mental health. They become better problem solvers, likely to be sexually involved, less likely to be sexually involved at an early age, less likely to have babies out of wedlock, less likely to be involved in criminal or violent behavior, and more likely to stay in school and do well in college. The Department of Justice provided me a lot of research that I needed to write the book. 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 90% of all homeless and runaway young people, fatherless homes. It goes on. The last is 85% of rapists motivated by displaced anger are from fatherless homes. 2 weeks ago, I did a speech on home domestic violence. Domestic violence in America is running rampant, and I found that a lot of the problems come back to these issues that we discovered through our coaches and through surveys. The U.S. Census Bureau, 13.7 million single parents. At this time, this was 3 years ago when I started, and they now tell me we have 24 million fatherless children in America. 80% of custodial parents are females, and so on. Statistics were staggering. Well, I'm a person that looks to solve problems. I sat back and said, how can we solve these issues? By preparing our teachers and coaches. First of all, there's basic criteria. Leaders must be better tomorrow than they are today. That's what I always told my team. We didn't look down to, are we going to win this game or are we going to win that game? Walter will tell you. All I ever asked of them was to improve each day. Be better tomorrow than you are today. Because then you'll look at the end of a year and look how much better you are than you were when you started. But if you don't keep that in mind, you can fail to improve each day and you're going nowhere. The plane levels and you're just doing the same thing over and over. Everyone in here, I challenge you to be better tomorrow than you are today. And the way you do that is you grow today, mentally, physically, and spiritually. Teachers and coaches need to be positive mentors, and so do parents. Live what you preach and teach. There is a poem that I have always loved, and Edgar A. Guest wrote it, and it's called Sermons We See. And I think it's one of the most important poems because if you read it, you'll understand that it's not what you say, it's how you live your life. And those can see, those that you are working with, your children, or those that you're coaching or teaching, they see more about who you are and the way you live life and how you keep your word and your honesty and your integrity and your care and your love. Is it genuine? Than all the words you could ever speak. There are a lot of articulate people in this world. But if they don't have the depth of character and integrity, their teachings will not be valid. Become the best you can be in order to be example to those that you lead. How do you become the best you can be? There are 3 chapters in this book that I'm very proud of. One is the key to success, and those of you that were here last year, I covered that. Key to success, mind control. There are 4 things in mind control: attitude, self-control, self-discipline, and the capacity to really care. If you master those 4 things and then teach them to those in your family or to those that you work with on a daily basis, lives will be changed forever. Attitude is something that is essential to any change. The other 2 chapters on motivation and leadership. Attitude. I can only tell you that when I think of attitude, there are 2 things that I think about. One's my mother, who is now 98 years old, lives in Snyder, Texas. She is an amazing woman, a piece of work, to tell you the truth. A person that has a clear mind and a positive attitude. When I was little, I noticed early on that she had this positive attitude. And one day I said to her, "Mom, you're always positive." I was in high school then. I said, "You never think I'm ever going to be on a team that loses." No, I don't. I know you're always going to win. But I said, "Mom, I don't always." She said, "Well, that's okay, but I think you're going to." I said, "Where do you get that positive attitude?" And she said, "When I get up in the morning, I put on my happy face. And I don't take it off till I go to bed at night." A happy face is indicative of a positive attitude, not a negative attitude and a snarly face. A positive attitude. The second thing that I think of is the words that I speak. Every morning, when I go into the bathroom to start to shave, I look into the mirror and I speak words that I started speaking when I was in high school. I found these words written by some very famous person, and I didn't write them down, so I just remembered them, so these words are actually mine with the same concept. But I look into that mirror and I say, "I'm only one, but I am one. I can't do everything, but I can do something. That which I can do, I ought to do. That which I ought to do, by God's grace, I will do." Hair on my head just stood up. I'm like Pavlov's dog. I'm trained, I have the positive attitude when I speak those words, because that is essential to start the day with a positive attitude, an attitude that will allow you to achieve success. A positive attitude takes into really critical factors like positive expectation. I expect good things to happen. I expect this lecture series to be a raging success. I expect individuals out there that have money that they want to invest in children will invest in this, because a perspective to these young people's lives will come in a lecture series. You can't get it anyplace else. You couldn't load this whole group up and take them across the country to hear the speakers that are going to come in. So it is essential. It is extremely important. That positive expectation. When I came to Baylor, there weren't a lot of positive expectations. Now up at Baylor, there are a tremendous amount of positive expectations. It's an unbelievable campus with athletic facilities that will match anybody in the country, and I'm so thankful and proud of that. But when I came to Baylor in 1972, that was not the case. There wasn't a blade of grass on the football field. Then I discovered they didn't have a practice football field. Now I know why they don't have any grass on the game field, because they're on it every day. I finally got some AstroTurf because I needed grass, so I just bought artificial and put it on the practice field and started work. They had no facilities. I asked one of the guys in development, I said, can you get me $50,000? I got to build a weight room. I'm never going to be Texas unless I can build a weight room. He said, let me work on it. He came back 3 days later. He said, I got the money. Really? I said, that's fantastic. You got $50,000? Yeah, but you won't take it. I said, what do you mean I won't take it? You won't take it. I got the money, but I know you, and you won't take it. I said, won't you try me? He said, okay, it's $50,000 of Anheuser-Busch stock. I said, I'll take it. He said, you will? I said, of course. The devil's had that money long enough. I'm going to use it to build a program. Gospel truth. And you know what? We added that little old weight room. We put little old weights in there. We started pumping those weights. But the big thing was they started believing. They started believing that they could be as good as anybody else. They didn't have to take a back seat to anybody. You don't have to do that. It doesn't matter your background, your circumstances, anywhere you come from. You don't have to take a back seat to anybody. And so they began to believe that. And we worked hard. And we took a group of kids that nobody else wanted, added some that we had recruited, and in 3 years, we are in a position that nobody in the world could ever thought we would be in. We were playing the University of Texas. We were heavy underdogs first of the year. University of Texas beating Baylor 19 straight times. We're playing them. Drizzly night. We get into the first half. We do some things really good, but they just somehow scored and scored and scored and scored again. That was 24-7 at halftime. I had a kid on my team, quarterback named Neil Jeffrey. He is now one of the great speakers in America, dealing with men, dealing with young men. Fantastic individual, great speaker. But when I met him, one of the assistant coaches that was there when I came in introduced me to this guy named Neil Jeffrey, and he couldn't talk to me because he was a stutterer. I said, that's a quarterback. He said, that's a quarterback. I said, oh, brother, can't talk? How are we going to do this? Well, I found out that this guy had his more resolve and more integrity within him than most folks would have in a lifetime. And he believed from the very first. Now we're into the third season, playing the University of Texas. We're down at halftime, 24-7. It's drizzling rain. Half the people in the stands have left. Same old, Baylor's going to lose to Texas for the 20th time. We had old dressing rooms upstairs. Walter remember those vividly. You have to go up the stairs at halftime, which took the energy out of us, I'm sure. But I'm walking up the stairs after everybody. I'd had to do a little interview, and I look over, and Neil Jeffrey's walking up the steps beside me. I look over at Neil, and Neil is grinning from ear to ear. Now, I'm not real happy about that. We're down 24-7, and he's my quarterback, and he's laughing. I stopped. I said, Neil, what's that smile on your face for? He looked at me, and a smile broadened, and he said, Coach, we got him right where we want him. I said, Neil, we're down 24-7. He said, that's just where we need him to be. We got him. We get to the top of the stairs. I said, okay, Neil. You go that way and we get in the restroom. I'll go this way and get in the dressing room. And you tell them exactly that. And I'm going to tell them the same thing, then we'll meet in the middle. And we went around and told each one of the guys, looked them in the eye and said, you know what? We got them right where we want them. We've played well. We've played very good. We had some bad breaks that happened to us. If we want this game, it's ours. It's right in front of us. We take the field and the rest is history. We beat them 34-24. They didn't score a point. We blocked a kick to turn it all around. Scored on the first play, and then the landslide took place. They never knew what hit them. And from that moment forward, in 19 years, we beat Texas 10 out of 19 years. Because our guys believed that they could. Not only did they believe that they could, they believed they were worthy that they could, and they had positive expectations that we don't care who we play. We can win. Positive expectations will lift you over the threshold. If there's one thing that will be something that will carry you through life and all the negatives that happen in this world, the bad things that's happened in this last week, you cannot succumb to those. You have to have positive expectation that you will some way, somehow find a way to overcome those particular things. There are 10 steps to a positive attitude. And Neil Jeffrey had all of those because he had positive expectations. He's such an amazing, amazing young man, an amazing man today. And I'm very proud of him, as I am all my guys. The second chapter in there that deals with personal development is self-motivation. Both Walter and Mike Singletary mentioned that. Setting of goals allows an individual to understand what they want. It wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to win the national championship. I wanted to win the conference championship. I wanted each one of these guys to become the best men they could become and the best players they could become. But that's my goals. It has nothing to do with whether they will accomplish those goals or not. So the first thing that we must all understand, that our personal goals are what are the key to our own individual success. Learning to set those goals in all areas of your life, physical, mental, and spiritual. Man is all three. We are physical, we are mental, and we are spiritual. And a failure, I always describe it like sitting on a three-legged stool. If you fail to develop any one of the three legs, the stool will not stand. 2 out of 3 isn't good in life. Physical, mental, and spiritual. You must develop. You must have that concept that that's what you're going to do. In order to do that, you need to know yourself. I used to use a little procedure, and these guys will remember it. I use it the whole time. Get a piece of paper, draw it down the middle, assets, liabilities on either side. Whatever you mean, assets, liabilities. What's the good things about you? What are your assets? What's the bad thing? Are you lazy? You just hate to get up in the morning? You're not a morning person? What is it that's negative about you? Define it. Write it down. Split the page. Good things, bad things, negative, assets, positive. And when you get to the bottom, you're going to be able to look and you can see what you need to eliminate. There was an old song, eliminate the negative, accentuate the positive. That's what you do. Take the negative out of your life, add to the positive. It's not brain surgery. It is personal development, how you set goals and how you win in life. You got to believe. That is a basic characteristic. Believe you are worthy of achievement. Believe you can make a difference. Strive to make a difference. When you become a mother or a father, husband and wife, make a difference in that which you are involved. There are no little jobs in life. They all have meaning and have significance to your personal development. Never, ever give in. Never give up. Never give out. Stay with it. One of the things about the tragedies that have taken place this last week is that we have to live on. We have to try the best we can to make sure that those things never happen again, but we have to seize defeat, slam it to the ground, step on it and rise above it, and strive for success every day. Walter knows this young man, knew him extremely well. His name's Kyle Woods. 1979, he was a redshirt freshman. We were in practice, August day. I'm on the far end of the field, and I've got 2 teams scrimmaging on the other ends against the scouts, and Kyle Woods was one of the scout defensive back. And I heard a noise that I can close my eyes and hear it to this day. It was one of those noises that no coach ever wants to hear. 2 helmets had slammed together hard. They had tarped, and one of the players fell to the ground, a quadriplegic. His name was Kyle Woods, redshirt sophomore. You instantly know something's bad. So I rushed to the north end of the field, and the players instinctively knew not to move. Nobody moved, and trainers came in, the doctors, and they slowly unpeeled them because they knew something bad was on the bottom of the pile. And that which was bad was a catastrophic injury to a 19-year-old child from Dallas, Texas. The doctors carefully loaded him with the help of the first responders to get him to the hospital. When I got to the hospital after dismissing the team and talking with them a bit, because it's a trauma, it's a catastrophic stroke shock to those that deal with that issue from outside. That's one thing that we can never forget. I get to the hospital, and the bad news awaited me that Kyle was a quadriplegic. I will capsule many days into a few words. I never missed a day being in his room, hour and a half at a time. 3 days they had him sedated, and he didn't wake up. And at the end of the third day, I happened to be in his room when I heard him moan, and I turned and looked, and he woke up. And I walked over and looked down at him. They had him in the harness and the attachment that they put into the skull to stretch. And I looked down at him, and all of a sudden his beautiful face just creased with this radiant smile. And for those of us that knew him, it was a magnificent smile. And I said to myself, son, you cannot know what lies ahead for you. And he didn't know. But he had that positive expectation. The next morning, he was able to talk to me about it. And he said, Coach, I now understand what's happened to me. Excuse me. And I want you to know that I believe that I'm going to walk someday. I said, always keep that goal, Kyle. We know the circumstances you're in now. His parents were there from Dallas, and they were wonderful people. They did everything that they could to work with us and to help us. We put together a trust fund that would help him in his rehabilitation, and he went to Dallas to Caruth Memorial for rehabilitation. I'd go up about twice a week to see him. The team, of course, was getting ready. It was 79. We ended up with a pretty darn good football team. He was an inspiration to them. He came back for a game against Arkansas, and I won't go into the details of that, but it was an inspirational moment for all of us because of the inspiration he gave to the team. Fast forward, if you would, to the end of the season, we were selected to play Clemson University in the Peach Bowl. Kyle is now getting where he can be in a wheelchair, and we were expecting that he could start to move his wheelchair around. So I had told him that if he would get to a certain point in his physical rehabilitation, I'd take he and his family to the Peach Bowl. So he accepted that challenge. And he was ready to go to the Peach Bowl. It was the day before when he was to come in. The players knew he was coming. And I remember that morning there was a press conference. So the captains walked by me on the way to the press conference, and they said, Coach, we're so happy that you're bringing Kyle in, and we're going to tell the press conference that we're going to win the game for Kyle. Coach, I said, well, wait a minute. Here, let's do this. Let's wait till we win the game and then tell them we won it for Kyle. They say, Coach, you don't understand. We're going to win this game for Kyle, and we want the world to know it. We were a 10-point underdog, 10 points. And I said, okay. So they made the announcement. That next morning, after Kyle had come in, we had a team meeting, and Kyle was to speak. Kyle, the day before, had been seen by the players, and they were amazed that he was able to roll himself into the room. And they showered him with their love, and they had also talked me into every player getting a terry cloth towel with his number on it. I said, of course. And they did. But in that devotional that morning, I asked Kyle to speak to the team. And Kyle at that time looked at the team members, and I remember so vividly his words. He looked out and he said, guys, I'm so proud of your being here. I know what you had to go through. I know when you lost to Alabama, how you had to bounce back from that, then to go on to finish the season strong and to get to play Clemson in the Peach Bowl. I'm so proud of you. And I know how you got here. I know what you had to do, the trauma you had to overcome when I got hurt in August. I know that, and I'm proud of you. But he said, let me tell you how I got here. Now, I'm going to tell you, friends, you could hear a pin drop in the room. He sat in his wheelchair, and he looked around, looking at everybody in the eye, it seemed to me like. And he said, there are two things that got me here. Number one is my faith, and number two is what my grandmother taught me. His faith was obvious. He said, God loves me. I love God. He's in my life. That will never perish. That will never go away. My faith is strong. I believe that someday I will walk. Someday I will. And I believe that, and my faith is strong. He said the second thing is what my grandmother taught me. Well, none of us knew what his grandmother taught him. He said she was 87 years old. All the kids, our parents worked, cousins. She kept us at her house. She cooked for us, and she did our clothes, and she watched over us. She read us stories, everything a grandmother could do. But my grandmother walked on crutches. I didn't know it at the time, but she had severe rheumatoid arthritis. And so one day she must have recognized I was 7 or 8 years old, Kyle said, and she must have recognized that I was concerned about her. And she called me to her side in her room, and she said, sit here by me, Kyle. I want to talk to you. He said, I looked up at her, and she looked down at me with the most loving eyes, and she said, Kyle, I know that you know that I have a problem getting around. And I appreciate that you're concerned for me. But I want you to know how I make it through each and every day, how I do what I do. Kyle said, I couldn't wait to hear what grandmother had to say. She looked at my eyes and she said, Kyle, remember this. I will never give in. My body may give out, but I will never give in. Resolve. Resolve. That team on that day fell behind, struggled to come back, fought down the pike. We're not supposed to win the game. National television, international television, won the game, rushed over the sideline, picked their teammate up in his wheelchair, paraded him around the big stadium there in Atlanta, Georgia, and carried him and placed the big trophy in his lap. I have a picture of him on the shoulder of our players, and in his lap, in his wheelchair, on their shoulders, he holds the big trophy. The players came back to win the game. They showed the resolve that he taught the day before. Never give in, never give up. Keep trying, keep pushing. And in so doing, they were to win against all odds. Clemson went on the very next year to be national champions, and our players won. The last thing that I want to share with you today is that third chapter on personal development. It's leadership. Leadership consists of some attributes that you must develop. Knowledge. Develop your knowledge. Know what you're talking about. Don't try to be a leader that has no concept of what's taking place. Know what's happening. Develop your knowledge. A leader has to be courageous. A leader has to communicate. A leader has to have character and decisiveness and be a decision maker and lead by action. On Baylor's campus, if you look up when you walk by a light pole, and there are many on campus, it's beautifully lit. There are plaques, and on those plaques are memorials to individuals that went to Baylor University that gave their life for our great country, going all the way back to the Civil War times. There is a post that has a man named Jack Loomis. Walter knows of him very well because he is one that is highly recognized by Baylor people. He was a great player for the football team, went on to be a great player for the Baylor baseball team. He was drafted by the New York Giants in 1941 when he got out of Baylor University. Played in the national championship game for the pros. Giants was playing in the game. 2 days after the game, Pearl Harbor was bombed by the Japanese. And that day he left to go join the Marines. Jack Loomis quickly rose because of his leadership skills he developed in baseball and football. He quickly rose to the commander of that particular company. And of course, he led his squad. In 1945, they landed on the shores of Iwo Jima, thousands of Marines, 7,000 of which gave their lives for our freedom here in America today. 7,000 Marines. They had to fight up a bloody beach up a hill to embankments that were filled with pillboxes where the Japanese had been working for years to protect the island. Flooding on to that sand and that death trap were the Marines and this company led by Jack Loomis. The key was they had to take the pillboxes filled with machine guns at the top of the hill. And in order to work their way up, they were, very open to mortars and to hand grenades and to machine guns. They'd fight their way to a hole in the ground that was caused by a mortar exploding. And they would lay in there, and then Jack would jump up and charge them forward, bring his men forward to get to the top of the hill to take it so that others might not die. They risked their lives. And on this one particular thing, and I took this out of the archives of that greatest of all awards, the Congressional Medal of Honor that was given posthumously to Jack Loomis. On this one particular move, he came out of the hole in the ground, leading his men. All of a sudden, there was an explosion. It was a hand grenade that knocked him down. He gets up, bleeding in his shoulder area, waves his men forward up the hill. He personally took out the next pillbox with everyone in it. Then he fights his way up, and another explosion. He gets up again, limping this time, and another explosion. He's waving his men on, and the descriptive words in the description was that to his men, it looked as though Jack Loomis was standing in a hole, waving his men forward. And when they got to him, they saw that both legs had been blown off by the grenade. And he's standing on his stubs, waving his men forward. And one of the men confessed, I felt that I needed to shoot him. He had to be in such agony and pain, but he would not allow that. He kept urging us on up the hill. They took the pillboxes and saved thousands of lives on that bloody beach. But one of the men articulated their feeling. When we went up the hill, he said, we knew our leader was down and he would be in front of us if he could. But he wasn't, so it was incumbent upon each of us to do what he would have done, to go up the hill and take it to save lives. And they did. Magnificent exhibition of leadership. We don't always have to give our life to be great leaders, but you have to have that commitment and that resolve. You have to be able to say to yourself, there are more things important than me. If I want to be a great leader, I have to take that of those that I lead and make sure that they understand that they are more important than me. But I'll lead them, and in so they will follow. I believe with all my heart that if each of us, future leaders now and in the future of this great country, and with our families, most of you in here, young people, are going to be husbands and fathers. You're going to be wives and mothers. And it is incumbent upon you that you take the same attitude toward leadership that Jack took. You put your whole heart and your soul into it. And you do what it takes to lead successfully. Let me just say this, that if each of us in here would adhere to these three principles of personal development, not only will your life change, but you'll change those lives around you. Those 6 social issues will begin to diminish as you live what you teach. And they can see in you this individual who sets goals and has personal motivation. For an individual that is a leader, and for an individual that has always that positive attitude with positive expectations. Doing that, you'll be more than you ever dreamed you could be. And for that, I'm eternally grateful and thankful to my Heavenly Father that you will become who you're intended to become. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
Mr. Germer, if you would be kind enough to escort Ms. Taft back to the stage, please. Donell, you're one of the most beautiful persons I have ever met.
Amen.
You will always be the first lady of Baylor football to me. Thank you for your model of servanthood to mankind. It is often said that behind every great man, there's an even greater woman. As Grant's wife and life partner, it is overwhelmingly visible to all that you are indeed the wind beneath Coach's wings.
Thank you.
Please accept these flowers with our heartfelt thanks from the Academy for the godly woman that you are and for your support of the Academy through this lecture series. I've known Coach Taft for 41 years. We both have West Texas roots. We had ties to Texas Tech, and we both came to Baylor in 1972. You, sir, are one of the most gracious and most genuine men I've ever met. You're a personal inspiration to me and to untold thousands of others for your deeply committed Christian example and walk in life. As our inaugural speaker for the Donell and Grant Taft Distinguished Lecture Series in Education and Leadership, and on behalf of San Marcos Academy's administration, faculty, staff, and her students, it gives me great pleasure and honor in presenting you and Donell this gift, which represents your 4 pillars of support. Please accept our heartfelt thanks and deepest gratitude. And now you're all invited to a reception for the Tafts and a book signing of Coach Taft's latest book in the school cafeteria. Thank you for your attendance, and you are dismissed.